As far as I know, they came from almost every state. I couldn't say that there was just any one place where they predominantly came from. Some of them were just coming maybe from slavery, you know, freed people, and they came west. But the West, my way of thinking, was just a challenge to both black and white. And people are always looking for new fields, new endeavor, new territory. So why not go west?
I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas. My mother hooked up human mules to a wagon, and she laid me down on a compass, and the wagon drove the wagon all the way from Little Rock, Arkansas to Oklahoma, Oklahoma. I started from the ground up. I didn't get a chance to go to school and to learn it. And after I was handling horses and handling cattle. We went out to the pasture, Mr. Smith, the white fellow, and they were going to drive some cattle to the stockyard. We had to drive them 100, and I guess it must have been about 150 miles. Hey, 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 bye. Over high, high. Whoop high. Whoop high. Whoop high, 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 high. Whoop high, 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 high. Whoop high, high. Whoop, 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 whoop. Hi, hi. Oh, hi, hi. Oh, hi, 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 hi. Oh, hi, 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 hi. Yup. Sometime we could maybe travel about 20 miles. Then after that we'd turn around and stop them. And then one of us would have to guard them. And if I didn't guard them, one of the other boys would got to guard them overnight, you know, on account of wolves and coyotes, you know, and mountain lions coming around, you know. Oh, I guess I must have been around about I wasn't very old. I've been so doggone long. I just had to guess. Oh, I guess I must have been around about maybe 8 or 9 years old. A little bit out there, and I had to pull the same stunt that the old ones pull.
Well, I started riding in 1916. I was around about 15 years old when I started riding the road professionally. My specialty was bulldog and bareback riding. And I filled in on the bronc riding once in a great while, but I wasn't too good on that. We had two top riders there, Ty Stokes and Jesse Stahl. In fact, this Jesse Stahl should have been in the Hall of Fame. He was the top bronc rider, bar none, white or black. And he was doing so good, winning all the money, first prize. Ty Stokes was doing the same thing. He was a trick roper and a trick rider. Well, he's a tops in both. He could spin 6 ropes at one time. And he had a little rigging hooked up to his hips, a wire deal. He had a rope on each one of these hooks sticking out the side and one in the rear. And the first thing he'd do, he'd start them up, see? He'd start them to going. Then he'd put one in his mouth and start it to going. Then he'd put one in each hand and start it, and there he was. I'm telling you, it was something to see. And he won money around there right and left. The colored boys was winning all the money, all the big money. Well, naturally, the white boys got a little bit roughed up about it. So in order to keep the show on the road, the promoter promised the colored boys a flat rate. They could ride, but they couldn't compete. See? But even at that, they was making more money than the other guys were. One of the black men came out and watched the rodeo and went back and told the rest of the crowd, and then the rest of the black people came out to watch it because they didn't believe there was any black boys. Now, this is Jesse Stahl riding backwards. He's the only man that could do that. But on a real tough bronc, he probably wouldn't have been able to. But this is more for a show deal than anything else.
That right there looked pretty tough.
Yeah, well, this is a bull called Sharky that had never been ridden before. He's the only man that rode it. And here he is on that spinning horse, the glass eye.
Yeah.
That horse is spinning the circle. Sometimes you turn to the right, sometimes it's left, turn to the left, and change positions in mid-air. Those are kind of the really tough. Now here's another picture of Jesse Stahl. He would pull a horse over backwards or any way that he wanted to, just for show.
And didn't get hurt.
Sometimes he did, not too bad though. But he did this for show, and that's what the crowd liked. They figured if somebody got hurt or they seen a little blood, why, they all got excited, you know? So I'm come just to see that. Now here he is on one of those horses I was telling you about, but the blindfold is still on.
Did he hurt himself? This Jesse Stahl?
No, he didn't that time. He turned to one side and got out. Now here's where he started to ride with a one-hand deal. Up until that time, he was always riding with two hands.
So Jesse Stahl, he's the one that first started one hand?
Yeah, that's right. Jesse Stahl, the one that started it first, and after that, why, everybody. And now, this is where I was riding in Bakersfield. That was on about the last day of the show, and this is the horse that I picked to ride. He wasn't as tough as some of the others, but he put up a pretty good show. Now, here's the bull that I rode in Bakersfield with a saddle.
That was a fighting bull.
And I got $25 for doing that. Here's the steer that I rode in San Jose. Now, whenever they have an accident on the track, there's a little lull. But then they have somebody come out and do some kind of a stunt. So I rode this steer with a flat saddle. And here's what they used to call the suicide ride, two on a bull.
That was you?
No, I'm not on this one.
Oh.
Ty Stokes and Slip Crockett is the one that's riding here with him. Ty Stokes and I were always dreaming up deals to make a little excitement, so we decided to ride two on a bull. But every time that we rode, we had to flip heads or tail to see who rode backwards. And it seemed like I was the one that always had to ride backwards. And I couldn't figure that out. So finally, Jesse Stahl, our buddy, he said, Frank, he says, don't you know what's going on? I said, no. He says, well, Jesse Stahl, he has 2 phony dollars, one with a tail on each side and one with a head on each side. So whichever one you call, you'd lose. They were around about 35 years old. I was just a kid under them. They're all dead now. Whenever the rodeo circuit was over with, or whether I didn't go, I had jobs in between time that I worked at. And some of the others weren't as fortunate as I was to have a steady job whenever I got out. And they went and stayed on the ranches and worked free up until the next shows started. Wow. Just worked for their board and room. Well, the cattleman that owned those ranches would let the boys come and stay there. It was a favor to them and a favor to the boys because the rancher didn't have to put out no money except little smoking money and whiskey money and such as that, you know, to get by. And then when the rodeo started again, if they didn't have money to go, they'd give them money and they'd set them off. Then it was all set for the next season. And that was the fightingest bunch of men you ever saw in your life. If any outsider come and picked on one of us cowhands, he was in bad trouble because they'd gang up on him. And you never saw him no more.
To be frank about it, I was born really on a train. But my mother always said, you are a native of Colorado, and that's it. My grandmother came in a covered wagon in 1876 from Sioux City, Iowa. Mother was 5 years of age. And I'm sure she was looking for a new way of life. In those days, especially around in Canyon City, when they were trying to get the church established, when they were going to the various mining towns, giving programs. So I would maybe play a duet with Mother. Mother's nickname was Leo because she was born in August, and she was 56 when this was made. There was the piano, the family Bible, my mother being an artist, her paints. So when we moved to the homestead, we couldn't take the piano with us, and it was left with a friend. And after we got settled at the ranch, every now and then Leo, as Papa would say, would start roaring about wanting that piano. Well, she just kept nagging, and so I never will forget that one day Dad took me aside and he says, well, son, he says, I guess Leo's going to get her a piano. He says, I finally figured out a way how we can get it in. We'll go to Rifle the day before, and we'll strap the piano on to the wagon. And he says, I think that we can make it because we'll rope it, and one will stand on each side.
Get out. Get out.
And they got home with the piano about, what it was sometime around about, I would say 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And of course, Mother had won out. Her piano was coming in, and she had invited neighbors, and they had what you might say kind of a potluck. Granddad did play a fiddle a little bit, And they had really what you might say, a stomping good time and plenty of food. So that was the way the piano got to the ranch. My father, he came from Kentucky. He was supposed to be a stepfather. But I don't believe that my own father could have loved and cared for me any more so than he did. He named me son, and that was it. We were out, I believe I'd been up to bring the cows down or something, and he said something about something that I did. And I said, well, after all, I said, you know, I'm a girl and I just can't do everything. And he said, from now on, you're my son. And he said, you can do a lot of things. You just don't have to figure that you're just a girl. He says, you are my son. And from then on, he called me son. I would say that our life was an ideal home life. Kind of like the song, you know, My Blue Heaven, just Molly and me, and baby makes three. There was a little school, Mount Clara, I think that was the name of it. It was just a little one-room school. I was in the 2nd grade, so Papa took me over to enroll me in school. The teacher came to the door. She took one look and she says, well, it can come in, but I've never taught one of them. And Papa said to her like this, he says, well, I'll tell you what, if you will let it come in and spend as much time with it as you do those in there, he says, I guarantee you it will learn. But that was a story that they told me so often. And I think that it had a lesson for me. I realized that I was going to be faced with prejudice, that I knew that I was going to have to maybe, it was going to be a thing of kind of competing. See what I mean? And that I would maybe have to try to be a little bit better in order to get someplace. In any town of any size, you usually found maybe 2 or 3 black families, or maybe more. So that would give you an idea of just about the number of blacks that are in Colorado. For employment, for most of the black men in that community, they worked on the section, or either the Union Pacific or the Burlington. The black people during that age, they had hopes of cashing in almost on everything. Make my 50 cents, I'm gonna head on the road. Do, 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 Lord, Lord, Lord. I've been rolling, rolling. Take my 50 cents, I'm on carrying home the road there. Do, 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 Lord, Lord, Lord. Yeah.
Sometimes I call the Newz and I blow the goodies. Doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. Rollin', 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 rollin'. Carry on to the road. I've been working, I've been working, rolling. Hey, hey, hey.
I will say that the ranch at Meeker, that was really an experience. As far as we know, we were the first black family in Meeker, so they wanted me to go to school where there were at least maybe a half a dozen black kids. They would leave, so Mother and I would leave the ranch in time for school. Oh, that was a trip. It was about less than 100 miles from where we lived to Grand Junction. We would start out in the morning, the covered wagon, the cow on the back. That was so son would have milk, you know. And a crate with a few chickens, and my dog and cat. We would get to about maybe 3 or 4 miles of rifle and would bed down for the night. Get up the next morning and start out. That's fast travel now. And start out, get to Palisade, Colorado, bed down there for the night, then go into Grand Junction. Now all of that so that I would be going to school where there were more blacks, see? I would say that it was a very pleasant life, but a hard life. And what you got, you really enjoyed. Papa built a room onto our log cabin, sent to Montgomery Ward, and got a galvanized bathtub. I bored a hole in the wall, put a pipe, and a cork, and that was our bathtub. Well, that was a luxury. So all we had to do was heat the water, dump it in there, take a bath, pull the cork, and it'd run outdoors. So you see, otherwise it was just a tin tub. You had to prepare. You had to can food, maybe kill a deer. Now my grandfather would trap bear. Mother learned how to can bear meat, as well as the venison. And then they had dugouts where they'd store the vegetables. But you just had to prepare for the stormy day. So you can see with that background, Eunice just had to do something. Although sometimes I think that I know I made my mistakes in one thing or the other, but with my background, I could always pick myself up and dust myself off and start all over again, see? And that was due to the way that my parents brought me up. I have always thought that the West was really a challenge, not only to the white, but to blacks. And therefore, regardless of how the hardships of getting out here, which most of them came in covered wagons or wagon train, there was something about the West. It was a new life and a new beginning. And with the black people that came, they more than anything were looking for freedom.